So, this next story is, this is not a new story. This is kind of something that's been going on for a long time. And that is what happened to Breonna Taylor. And honestly, even though this happened months ago, we're still figuring out the facts of what actually happened. And it's a question of if we'll ever know the facts of whatever actually happened. So, the basics of this, in case you haven't heard, is that Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend listed her address, and on forms and stuff, and so the police officers thought that was his official address, right? And so they were trying to find this guy. They're trying to arrest him because he was a drug dealer. And so what they did was they got a no-knock warrant, right? And that is what it sounds like. That's when police officers think, hey, this could be a dangerous situation. We don't want to announce ourselves, so we're just going to get a battering ram and we're gonna break the door down, right? And so that's what happened in this case. Except, the guy they were looking for wasn't there. Who was there was Breonna Taylor and her then boyfriend. And so what happened is they did not announce themselves. At least that's what you would be implied with a no-knock warrant. And they broke the door down, and Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend, who were in bed watching TV, heard someone break the door down. And so they went to investigate, and the boyfriend grabbed a gun. Now, what happened next is unclear. Now, the police, for their part, they did say that they did announce themselves, but that's just, that's, who knows if that's true or not. What we do know what happened is that Breonna's boyfriend fired a single shot, right? A single shot when someone broke into his home, and he didn't know who they were, and so he fired a shot at them because, understandably, very scared then. The police officers then returned fire. They reportedly fired 20 shots, and one of those shots hit Breonna Taylor, who was unarmed, and she died at the scene. And now, one of the officers who shot her has been charged, but not for killing her. Nope. They were charged for shooting the neighbor's house. Right? They were charged for, their bullet, shooting up the neighbor's home. Not for killing the human being. Now, legal experts say officers can't be charged because of self-defense. And that is kind of understandable. They feared for their life, and that's why they shot. And so now, no one's going to be held responsible. Right? Even though the police officers obviously seem negligent here. And even if you think, one thing to point out here, if you think, this guy fired at the police and, he got what he was asking for, who shoots at the police? Keep in mind that he only fired one shot, right? One shot. Now I've never been arrested in my life. Definitely not a criminal mastermind. But if I'm going to engage with a shootout with the police, right? If I know police are coming in, if I hear police are coming in, I'm probably going to fire more than one shot. I mean, I'm not the expert in this, but, typically it seems like one shot is not, it's not standard in a shootout. It seems like you fire a lot of shots. And so it seems to me very reasonable that he did not know it was the police that were there, which would basically mean that the police did not announce themselves. But again, because they fear for their lives, no one is going to be held responsible. The city paid $12 million to Breonna's family, but let's be honest, that's just blood money. It's not justice. It's paying for Breonna's family to go away. And specifically in the settlement there, the city made sure that they didn't have to admit they made a mistake, that the police department didn't have to admit that they made a mistake. So for months and months, there have been protests about police brutality, right, throughout the country. There have been Yeah, and it's a lot of these protests. Some of these protests have gone, gone violent. There's been reports of looting, even though that's not associated with the protests. There's been, a lot of chaos and a lot of folks in the streets demanding, justice for unarmed black people that are being murdered. And this charge kind of sums up what they're fighting for perfectly, right? No one is going to face charges in Breonna Taylor's death. She essentially just died, and no one is going to face any consequences for that. But when it comes to shooting the neighbor's house, someone's got to pay. Someone has to pay for that shit. Someone is going to jail or prison for shooting the neighbor's house. And that's played out with these protests across the country. People are like, hey, I don't like unarmed black people getting killed. But then those protesters went and attacked that Target. Or they attacked that business. And now, I'm not so sure if I support this. Because what they're saying is that business, that Target, is more important than unarmed black people being killed. And that's pretty shitty. Now, this might be a bit of a stretch, but if you ask me, black Americans get less justice in this country than dogs. And you can just look at the case with Michael Vick. In case you forgot, Vick was the former Falcons quarterback, my favorite team, was arrested for dogfighting. And, this was a huge story back in the day. I mean, everyone remembers what happened to Michael Vick, right? And honestly, a side note, that what happened to the dogs was actually worked out pretty good after they were rescued. See, before that time, this is kind of like a small story about this, but before that time, when dogs were, taken from dogfighting rings, they were just put down because people thought, okay, like, these dogs are unsalvageable, essentially, which is a really shitty thing. And because there's so much publicity around this case, they now actually, they decide, okay, we can't just put these dogs down. Let's rehabilitate them. And now when dogs are found in some of these horrible, horrible situations, and what Mike Vick did was horrible. Don't get me wrong there. But there is some good that has come out of it. And that now these dogs are rehabilitated instead of put down. And Vick himself lost his fortune and spent months in federal prison for this crime. And had to give up, tons of money for fines. I think he spent thousands and thousands of dollars just for the dog rehabilitation, which again was a good thing. But the Falcons, his former team, I think at one point sued him for $26 million. So by the end of it all, Vick was broke. And not only did he lose his fortune, but he paid his debt to society by serving in prison for 23 months. But even to this day, he is vilified. People hate Michael Vick. A couple months ago, there was a petition about, before the pandemic when these things seemed to matter, Vick was going to be a captain at the Pro Bowl, which just sparked a firestorm. People were very pissed that Michael Vick was going to be a captain at the Pro Bowl. And so it shows that, even after he's lost his fortune, paid his debts to society, people will never look at Michael Vick and think he's nothing but a dog killer. But Breonna Taylor's killers, they can go on. They can still be officers. They haven't been charged. A lot of them haven't been charged with a crime. They can go. Some of them are still working for that same department. They can leave and they can move and they find other jobs and pretend like this never happened. They can just move on. And so to recap, a dog killer, former NFL quarterback, gets 23 months in prison. Cop shoots and kills Breonna Taylor, and nothing happens. Not a damn thing. Now, the last hope for justice in this case is that the FBI is looking into it. They're looking into, and maybe they could charge the officers with something there. But honestly, cases like this, they just kind of erode a lot of people's faith in the criminal justice system, in law enforcement, including me. I definitely thought that there would maybe be some justice in this case. But unfortunately, it seems that it's too common that people don't get justice.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching Citizen Pete. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hey, maybe just leave a comment. You know, I want to know what you're thinking. What do you think about all the politics, the news, and all the stuff that's going on in our country?